I want to show you two things that happened to the same Nigerian entertainer months apart that almost nobody has connected until now. On March 13, 2026, reports spread online that comedian Broda Shaggi had been shot while filming a comedy skit under a bridge in Sango-Ota, Ogun State. It was said he was rushed to a hospital for emergency treatment. The police could not immediately confirm it, and in the middle of the confusion, Broda Shaggi posted something on Instagram that he later deleted. He said he wished to pour out his mind, but he feared his words would be deleted if he did. Read that again. A man who may have just survived a shooting said in public that he was afraid to speak the truth. Now fast forward to June 5th, 2026, almost 3 months later. The same Broda Shaggi posted something completely different in tone, but I believe it is connected. He said, and I am quoting him directly, "Nigeria is bleeding. Many are grieving, people are tired and losing hope. And the painful part is that so many in power seem more interested in taking than actually doing." He went further. He said history will remember who chose greed over people, and it will also remember those who stayed silent while innocent lives were lost. A man who once said he was afraid his words would be deleted later said history will judge those who stayed silent. I do not think that is a coincidence. And today on the Policy Pulse HQ, we are going to walk through exactly what happened between those two moments, what it tells us about Nigerian celebrities and fear, and what it tells us about the country all of this is happening in. Before we start, I want to be completely transparent with you. These events happened between March and June 2026. This is not breaking news. This is a connected dots investigation into a story that deserves more attention than it got the first time around. Stay with me. If you are new to the Policy Pulse HQ, this channel exists to give you Nigerian political analysis that connects dots other channels miss. Subscribe now and stay with me because this story is bigger than one comedian's Instagram post. What happened on March 13th and what we actually know? Let us start with the facts as they were reported, and I want to be precise about what is confirmed and what remains genuinely unclear, because that distinction matters enormously for a story like this. On Sunday, March 13, 2026, reports began circulating online that Samuel Animashon Perry, known to Nigerians as Broda Shaggi, had been involved in a gunshot incident while filming a comedy skit in the busy Sango-Ota area of Ogun State. According to the reports that spread at the time, the incident happened under a bridge in that area, and an anonymous source alleged that Shaggi was rushed to Blooming Care Hospital in Alakuku for emergency treatment. In the hours and days that followed, Broda Shaggi did not immediately confirm or deny what had happened. What he did do was post something on Instagram that quickly caught public attention and which he later deleted. In that post, he hinted at feeling silenced, saying he wished to pour out his mind about what happened, but that he feared his words would simply be taken down if he tried. This is where I need to be honest with you about what remains unverified. The Ogun State Police Command, when asked directly, said it could not confirm that Broda Shaggi had been shot. The police spokesperson at the time, DSP Oluseyi Babaseyi, said the command had initiated investigations to verify the unconfirmed shooting incident and urged the public to rely on official communications rather than speculation. So here is where the facts stand precisely. We have a viral report of a shooting. We have an anonymous source alleging hospitalization. We have a deleted Instagram post from Shaggi himself hinting at fear and silencing without explicitly confirming a shooting took place. And we have a police command that at the time could not confirm the incident occurred. This uncertainty is genuinely important to sit with rather than rushing past it. It is entirely possible that a real frightening security incident happened to a well-known Nigerian entertainer and that Nigeria's institutions were unable to give the public a clear, timely answer about what actually occurred. It is also possible that reports were exaggerated or that Shaggi's own cryptic statement contributed to public confusion rather than clarity, both possibilities deserve to be named honestly. Why the uncertainty itself is the story. Here is what I want you to notice, regardless of which version of the shooting story is accurate. A famous, well-connected, financially successful Nigerian entertainer experienced something frightening enough, real or perceived, that his public response was to hint at fear of censorship rather than to speak clearly and directly. If a man with Broda Shaggi's platform, resources, and public visibility feels that pulling back and going quiet is the safer option after a frightening incident, that tells us something important about the environment ordinary Nigerians with none of his visibility or resources are operating in every single day. When even the people with the loudest microphones in the country feel they must whisper, that silence is itself a form of evidence about the state of free expression in Nigeria. What changed between March and June 2026? Now let us move forward to June 5, 2026, almost 3 months after the alleged shooting incident, and examine exactly what Broda Shaggi said and why the timing and the content of that statement matter so much. In a post that quickly gained significant online attention, Broda Shaggi wrote, and I want to give you his exact words in full because precision matters here. He said, quote, "Nigeria is bleeding. Many are grieving. People are tired and losing hope. And the painful part is that so many in power seem more interested in taking than actually doing." End quote. He continued with a specific definition of what leadership should mean, saying, quote, "Leadership is not about power, luxury, or political games. It is about service, sacrifice, accountability, and humanity." End quote. And he closed with a direct warning aimed squarely at Nigeria's current leadership, saying, quote, "History will remember who chose greed over people, and it will also remember those who stayed silent while innocent lives were lost." End quote. Notice something specific in that final line. History will remember those who stayed silent. 3 months earlier, Broda Shaggi himself had been the one hinting at staying silent, at fearing that his words would be deleted if he spoke honestly. By June, he was explicitly condemning silence as a moral failure that history would judge harshly. That is not a contradiction. I believe it is a transformation. Something happened, whatever the true nature of the March incident was, that appears to have moved Broda Shaggi from a posture of fear and self-censorship to a posture of direct, public, unmistakable political criticism. That is a genuinely significant arc for any public figure, and it deserves to be told as the connected story it actually is, rather than as two unrelated headlines that happen to involve the same person. This specific language choice that matters. Here is a detail in Broda Shaggi's June statement that deserves closer analytical attention than it received at the time. He specifically used the phrase, "So many in power seem more interested in taking than actually doing." The word taking is doing very deliberate work in that sentence. He did not simply say leaders are failing or leaders are incompetent, which would be a criticism of capability. He said leaders are taking, which is a criticism of extraction, of leaders removing value and resources from the country rather than contributing to it. That is a much sharper and more serious accusation than general dissatisfaction with governance. It is an allegation, however broadly stated, of leaders actively enriching themselves at the expense of a bleeding population rather than simply being ineffective at solving the country's problems. Whether Shaggi intended that precise distinction or not, the language he chose reflects exactly the kind of extraction critique that serious Nigerian political economists have been making for decades, now delivered in 6 words from one of the country's most followed comedians to an audience of millions who may never read a single academic paper on the subject. Broda Shaggi is not alone, and that is exactly the point. Let us zoom out from Broda Shaggi specifically and talk about why moments like this matter for Nigerian politics as a whole. Because he is far from the only entertainer who has stepped into this exact space. Around the same period in 2026,
Other Nigerian public figures made similarly pointed statements. Nollywood actress Yvonne Jegede publicly and repeatedly criticized the Tinubu administration over worsening insecurity, directly addressing President Tinubu and First Lady Remi Tinubu in her statements, and arguing that the Nigerian government lacks a sense of humanity towards citizens in danger. Gospel singer Ebuka Songs criticized government campaign billboards as tone-deaf against a backdrop of daily suffering. This was happening across the Nigerian entertainment industry simultaneously, not as an isolated incident from one comedian. This pattern is genuinely significant for a reason that goes beyond any individual statement. Nigerian entertainers, comedians, and social media personalities reach audiences, particularly young audiences, at a scale that traditional political commentary, newspaper editorials, and even most television political programs simply cannot match. When a comedian with millions of followers says Nigeria is bleeding, that message travels through group chats, reposts, and screenshots to people who have never watched a single political debate or read a single newspaper editorial in their lives. Why this is not just noise, but a real political signal. Here is the analytical point that I think deserves the most serious attention in this entire video. When a country's comedians, whose entire professional survival depends on making people laugh and feel good, start using their platforms to say the country is bleeding and history will judge silent leaders, that is a meaningful political signal, not simply celebrity gossip dressed up as commentary. Comedians are, in a very real sense, professional readers of public mood. Their livelihood depends on understanding exactly what their audience is feeling and thinking at any given moment, because a joke that misreads the room fails commercially and instantly. When Nigeria's professional mood readers, the people whose careers depend on correctly sensing what millions of ordinary Nigerians are actually feeling and thinking, start abandoning comedy for direct political grief and anger, that is arguably a more honest barometer of national frustration than any opinion poll, because it reflects what these entertainers have concluded their own audiences genuinely want and need to hear based on their direct, daily, commercially tested relationship with public sentiment. There is also a real risk worth naming honestly on the other side of this conversation. Celebrity political commentary, however emotionally powerful, is not the same thing as policy analysis, and it should never be treated as a substitute for it. Broda Shaggi's statement, however moving, does not tell us what specific policy failures caused the bleeding he describes, does not propose specific solutions, and does not hold any specific official accountable for any specific decision. Emotional political commentary from beloved public figures is powerful precisely because it is simple and relatable. But that same simplicity means it can never replace the harder, more detailed work of examining budgets, legislation, and institutional accountability that channels like this one exist to provide. The healthiest version of Nigerian political discourse combines both celebrity voices that carry emotional truth to massive audiences and serious analytical work that explains the specific mechanisms behind that emotional truth. Neither one alone gives Nigerians the full picture they need to make informed decisions about their country's future. Drop a comment right now and tell me honestly, do you think celebrity political statements like Broda Shaggi's actually change anything in Nigeria, or are they just words that disappear into the news cycle? I want your honest view before we get to the section that ties this whole story together.
From fear of deletion to fear of silence. Let us bring this back to the central emotional arc of this story, because I believe it is the most important part of what happened between March and June 2026, and it deserves to be stated plainly. In March, Broda Shaggi's instinct, following a frightening and still not fully clarified incident, was to pull back. His deleted post suggested a fear that speaking honestly would result in his words being erased, whether by platform moderation, by pressure from unnamed parties, or by his own caution. That is an entirely understandable human response to fear. Most people, when frightened, choose safety and silence over confrontation. By June, something had shifted.
Rather than fearing that his words would be deleted, Broda Shaggi was now warning that history would judge those who chose silence. He moved from being afraid of speaking to being afraid of not speaking. That is not a small shift. That is the difference between a person managing personal risk and a person who has decided that the cost of staying quiet has become greater than the cost of speaking out. We do not know, and this video will not pretend to know, exactly what happened in Broda Shaggi's personal reasoning between those two moments. We do not have access to his private conversations, his security assessments, or his internal decision-making process. What we do have is a public record of two contrasting statements 3 months apart from the same public figure, and a documented national context of worsening insecurity, economic hardship, and high-profile tragedies, including the Ogun State school abductions that dominated headlines during exactly the same period, that provides a plausible explanation for why an entertainer might move from caution to open criticism. This arc, whether or not it was a deliberate personal journey on Shaggi's part, mirrors something larger happening across Nigerian civil society during this period. As documented insecurity numbers continued rising, with independent tracking organizations recording tens of thousands of deaths and kidnappings over recent years, more and more public voices, from comedians to actresses to musicians, appear to have concluded that the personal risk of speaking out had become smaller than the moral and reputational risk of staying quiet while the country they built their careers and their fame in continued, in Shaggi's own words, bleeding.
Being fair to the other side of this story. Analytical honesty requires us to also examine the strongest reasonable pushback against the framing this video has presented, because a channel that only tells one side of a story, even a compelling one, is not doing its job properly. It is entirely possible that the March shooting reports were significantly exaggerated or even inaccurate, given that the Ogun State Police Command could not confirm the incident at the time. If that is the case, Broda Shaggi's deleted post about fearing his words would be silenced may have had nothing to do with a genuine security threat and everything to do with a completely different, unrelated personal matter, given that around the same period, he had also been dealing with public attention around his relationship with former Big Brother Naija star Dorothy Bako, and separate online accusations from another individual regarding his personal conduct. If that alternative explanation is accurate, then connecting the March incident directly to the June political statement, as this video has done, risks constructing a more dramatic and emotionally satisfying narrative than the underlying facts actually support. That is a genuine risk in any piece of connected dots analysis, and it deserves to be named directly rather than glossed over. Here is why I believe this connection is still worth presenting to you, even with that honest uncertainty acknowledged. Regardless of whether the March incident and the June statement are causally linked in Broda Shaggi's own mind, both events are independently real and independently documented. The alleged shooting and the fear it generated genuinely happened, or at minimum, genuinely appeared to happen publicly, whatever its ultimate cause. And the Nigeria is bleeding statement genuinely happened, with genuine, verifiable, quoted language criticizing Nigerian leadership directly. Even if these two moments are entirely unrelated in Broda Shaggi's actual personal experience, examining them together still tells us something true and important about Nigeria in 2026, a country where a beloved public entertainer can experience a frightening incident that authorities cannot immediately clarify, and can also independently feel moved to publicly declare that his country is bleeding under its current leadership. Both of those things being true about the same nation in the same 3-month period is itself worth Nigerians sitting with, whether or not one caused the other.
Signals worth following from here. Here is what is worth watching as this broader trend of Nigerian entertainers speaking out continues to develop, and as we approach the 2027 election cycle. The first signal is whether Broda Shaggi continues making political statements or whether the June 5th post was an isolated moment of frustration rather than the beginning of sustained political engagement. A single statement is a data point, a pattern of continued political commentary from an entertainer of his following would represent something more significant. The second signal is whether any further clarity ever emerges about the March 13th incident specifically, whether from Broda Shaggi himself, from the Ogun State Police Command, or from independent reporting. That clarity would meaningfully change how confidently we can connect these two moments together. The third signal is whether other Nigerian entertainers continue this same pattern of increasingly direct political commentary heading into the 2027 election season, following the path already walked by figures like Yvonne Jigide and others during this same period. A sustained wave of entertainment industry political engagement would represent a genuine shift in how Nigerian civil society mobilizes political pressure outside of formal party structures. The fourth signal is how the Nigerian government and its supporters respond to this growing trend of celebrity criticism, whether these voices are engaged with substantively, dismissed as mere entertainment noise, or met with any form of pressure or pushback, will tell us a great deal about how seriously Nigeria's political establishment takes its mobilizing power of its most followed cultural voices.
Here is where this story leaves us. In March 2026, a Nigerian comedian appeared to signal fear about speaking honestly. In June 2026, that same comedian declared without hedging that Nigeria is bleeding and that history would judge those who stayed silent. We do not know with certainty whether those two moments are directly connected in Broda Shaggi's own personal journey. What we do know with complete certainty is that both moments happened. Both are documented and both tell us something true about Nigeria in 2026, a country where even its most beloved entertainers are moving in real time and in full public view, from caution to conviction. That movement, from fear of deletion to fear of silence, is happening across Nigerian civil society right now, not just with one comedian. Whether it translates into real political change before 2027 or simply becomes another set of powerful words absorbed into a news cycle that moves on within days, is the question every single Nigerian watching this video gets to help answer. If this analysis helped you see the connection between Broda Shaggi's two moments this year, share it with someone who needs to see the full picture, not just the viral headline. Like this video, subscribe to ThePolicyPulseHQ, and tell me in the comments, do you think Nigerian celebrities have a responsibility to speak out politically, or should they stay in their lane? I will see you in the next one.